It is time for one of my favorite segments of the entire week. It's moved up a day, but nonetheless, it is Malzberg's Media Madness. And joining us once again is our friend, the associate editor of Newsbusters.org, Noel Sheppard. Hey, Noel.
How are you? By the way, it's moved up 2 days, but I know that we're all kind of screwed.
That's true. It is moved up 2 days. You know why? Because I'm off on Friday, so I'm all messed up. Today is my Thursday. It's your Wednesday. It's 2 days. It's 1 day. I'm all discombobulated. But that's
I work 7 days a week, so I don't know what day it is.
All right. So let's talk first of all about. I did a little segment earlier on this, and you wrote about this. You have revealed this. You're the only one that I've seen actually put this out there. A report from the Philadelphia Inquirer, August 19th of 1994. Now, first, let me put up a picture for those watching at Newsmax TV of what's causing all the ruckus, the Missouri State Fair, where a rodeo clown put on an Obama mask. If you're watching at Newsmax TV, you can now see it on the screen. It looks like a typical Halloween Obama mask, which, by the way, they do sell in the stores, like Bush masks and Clinton masks and all kinds of masks. And you pointed out, Noel, in your piece at Newsbusters, let's put up now the next one, the number 37, that in 1994, they put a George H.W. Bush mask, and there it is at Newsmax TV. You're seeing it, a George H.W. Bush mask on a dummy who was chased around by a bull.
And a bull ends up attacking it. You know, I don't know whether you've ever gone to a rodeo. I actually have. And masks on rodeo clowns are very, very common.
Absolutely.
I seem to recall seeing, and this is just recollection. And of course, when you're at a rodeo, you do have a couple of beers, and it's it's in the sun and whatnot. But I do recall seeing Ronald Reagan masks as being somewhat common. I seem to recall Bill Clinton mask. Again, this is just recollection. I'm actually trying to get in touch with various rodeo representatives to find out that this is totally common. It's a rodeo.
And
they wear masks.
You know what's happened here. I'm sure you do, but just for the folks, the clown has been banned for life. The rodeo can't participate in the state fair ever again unless all their clowns and people undergo sensitivity training. The radio announcer at that rodeo is at the state fair. He just had to resign his position as radio announcer and head of one of the organizations that he just took that position a couple of days before the rodeo. The NAACP of the state of Missouri is calling for the Secret Service and the Justice Department to investigate. This is bizarre.
Okay, and he's a competitor, and you may not like me bringing this up, but so far the best comment I've heard, Rush Limbaugh today said this is the way Muslim countries respond to cartoons
of the Prophet Muhammad. I heard him say that. I love Rush. That's okay.
And you know what? That's right. That's the way people are reacting. This is just a president. He is not God. He is not Jesus Christ. He's just a president. We make fun of presidents. We make all kinds of fun of presidents. But you can't do it with this guy because he's the Messiah. He's totally hands off. The left are going nuts over this. It's really rather revolting what we're seeing right now, but it's not surprising.
No, and the White House said Obama has no comment on this, but they said it wasn't one of our better days. And Byron York points out, in a piece that he wrote today or yesterday, that the movie, the pseudo documentary, phony documentary where Bush is killed, assassinated while he was still president. You know, and I know that the protests where they had the Bush in the crosshairs, Bush with blood down his face, and of course Bush is an idiot. He's a moron. He's the dumbest president ever. He doesn't read. He can't speak. And you got Alan Hevesi giving a speech, the comptroller of New York City at the time, saying Chuck Schumer would put a bullet between the president's eyes if he could. I mean, none of that matters, but you put an Obama mask on, and the world collapses. On a clown.
On a clown. He's a clown. This is about humor. We're supposed to be having fun. People have, what I suggest is, now I think it's safe to assume that probably much of the anger here is coming from people that would never go to a rodeo.
Oh, sure.
Never been to a rodeo, so they don't know what happens at rodeos. There are clowns there, and they taunt the bulls, they taunt the animals, they taunt the audience, and they're always wearing Man,
No, this is only because Obama's black. It's racism, and that's the end. Period. Now, let's move on here on the Steve Malzberg Show to the next topic. You wrote about this one, and I thank you for that. We had Donald Trump on this show yesterday, and Donald Trump was victimized by Jonathan Karl at ABC. And I want to play you. I hope I got this in the right order here. I don't even know which order. It doesn't matter. But play cut 39.
You've said a lot of things over the years that people say just make you not serious. I mean, one of the big things is on the birth certificate. So what I'd like to do...
Why does that make me not serious? I mean, I think that resonated with a lot of people.
Okay, so Jonathan Karl, on his interview with this for This Week with George Stephanopoulos with Donald Trump, brings up the birth certificate. Donald Trump probably wouldn't have brought it up, and you could tell me how he should have responded, but Karl brings it up. And then that night...
Not only brings it up, Donald then responds...
Oh, yeah.
Then says, but that's not my issue. My issue is the economy. I want to talk about China. I want to talk about how we're getting our butts kicked all around.
Donald Trump did not want to talk about that. It was obvious.
Did not want to talk about
then that night... on ABC News, World News Tonight, Jonathan Karl introduces his talk with Donald Trump and has this to say about Donald Trump. This is 38.
But it's hard to take Trump seriously when he's still raising questions about President Obama's birth certificate.
I mean, and you were nice enough to put the link to the interview I did with Donald Trump yesterday, where he responded to that, saying that Karl is dishonest and that people are starting to believe that the media is dishonest. This is a blatant editing of the tape, if you will, but not even editing of the tape, just him personally, Karl, lying about what Donald Trump wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, basically, it appears that this is now, standard operating procedure at ABC News. If you recall, in January 2012, George Stephanopoulos at a Republican presidential debate brings up this whole birth control issue and the Griswold 1965 Griswold Supreme Court decision about birth control to Mitt Romney and grills him for 5 minutes until the audience begins to boo him. And this is what began the whole Republican war on women nonsense. So I think that clearly the media wants the birther issue in the public eye. Okay, they want to get Republicans talking about this, and they want to see people at town hall meetings talking about this. This is not about Obama at this point. This is about the 2014 election. This is about trying to depict Republicans as being racist. This is what we're going to be hearing now for. I mean, I don't think we're going to hear as much about the war on women. I think instead it's all going to be now in the wake of the Trayvon Martin case, and now with this rodeo clown and all of the birther talk at town hall meetings, it's all going to be we're all a bunch of racists. And it's just, Jonathan Karl should really be ashamed of himself.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on. We're talking to Noel Sheppard, associate editor of Newsbusters.org, and we're here on the Steve Malzberg Show in the little section we call Malzberg's Media Madness. And let's move on. I don't know if this was on your list, Noel, but I hope you don't mind me bringing it up. I just loved this piece that you did with the sound that you provided, and that is The Daily Show. And the guy who's filling in for Jon Stewart, John Oliver, and I got to admit I never really heard of him, and but nonetheless he ripped into Chris Matthews of MSNBC in a comedic way, but he got his message across. He started with Chris Matthews' bold prediction, which we discussed last week, where he said that Rand Paul will be the Republican nominee for the presidency in 2016. Here's cut 28.
I predict the hard right is going to take over the Republican Party in 2016, and the nomination is going to Rand Paul. You watch. This is what I do for a living.
Ooh. Really? Because all this time I thought you were paid to spit on a camera lens. But, look, if making sound predictions is what Chris Matthews does for a living, then he may have a bit of a problem, because finding sound bites of people saying things that directly contradict the claim they've just made, that's what we do for a living. So...
All right, now, then he goes on, And we put a lot of these together. He goes on here and he gives some examples of Chris Matthews and his bold predictions of the past. Here's the next one.
Let me ask you about Rudy Giuliani. I believe he's not only running, I think he's going to win this whole thing come around the next election.
That's right, yeah. You remember him, current President Rudy Giuliani.
You watch Bachman. She's got the action this time. She stands for something. She's going all the way. She's going to win this thing. Really? I'll tell you right now, I predict she beats Romney.
It's what he does for a living.
And then, Noel, finally, cut 30.
Chris Matthews doesn't just routinely have egg on his face. He has a chicken copping a squat onto his face, laying an egg between his eyes, on that egg, punching the egg, and then rubbing it all over his face.
That was hysterical.
No, it's beautiful. Actually, conceivably, the best part of this story is, I mean, I'm the only one who wrote about, or I'm the person who broke that story about what Matthew said. So it kind of suggests that the folks at the news at the Daily Show,
The Daily Show, yeah.
They're reading Newsbusters, so good for them. I love this segment. What's really interesting here, I mean, I imagine you don't watch a lot of Comedy Central, don't watch a lot of Jon Stewart. There's a lot of people right now that are thinking that Oliver, in his way, is better than Stewart. Now, I would say it's just because he's got a British accent, and we Americans are suckers for a British accent. But he really is tremendously funny, although he's further to the left than Stewart.
Yeah.
And he's been on now for about 3 weeks, I think, or 4 weeks. Stewart took off for the summer, and he's been a lot harder on Republicans, a lot harder on conservatives, not even close.
Well, yeah.
But this was good stuff. I mean,
kudos to you. This was, and I'm sure they did get it from you. And this was excellent stuff, and it was hysterically funny. And you know, we talked about this also. I think when it was announced that Stewart would be off for the entire summer to go produce a movie or something, and it struck us as kind of strange that Stewart. I don't even know who's in charge of that show, but that is secure enough to allow someone to fill in for the entire summer. I mean, that in this business, I mean, even a full week is a rarity.
Yeah, I mean, especially with what's going on with Leno and Jimmy Fallon. But I think that Stewart feels pretty cozy here. And I think that what's probably going to happen is Oliver's now going to get his own show.
I was just going to say, yeah.
And the people don't remember, Colbert used to be on The Daily Show. He was one of Stewart's, not flunkies, but you know what I mean, one of the sidekicks. So I think Oliver's now going to get his own show. I think he's a very, very funny guy, and they can use another half hour of good comedy on that network.
All right, let's move one step further here, the final story, and talk about Oprah. Oprah, just some bizarre things. First, she started off, you know, she's plugging her movie, and she started off by doing an interview and saying that Emmett Till and Trayvon Martin are the same thing, exactly the same thing. Then she claims that she was in Switzerland and she was at this high-end store and wanted to be shown a pocketbook. And the saleswoman said, "Oh, no, you can't afford that. It's $36,000 or whatever." Well, of course, the saleswoman, has denied it. Oprah has tried to back off, apologizing and saying, "Oh, this is not a reflection on Switzerland, and I'm sorry I brought it up. I didn't want it to be a big deal," which, of course, she did want it to be a big deal. When Oprah claims racism at a store, it's going to be a big deal. And has the media reported that this saleswoman is saying that Oprah is not telling the truth?
I think it's early to tell. I didn't see anything on it yesterday, and we'll keep on monitoring it. But I think that we have to remember that there's a movie out with Oprah in it called The Butler, and it's actually called Lee Daniels' The Butler because there was actually a movie made decades ago called The Butler, so they weren't allowed to call it The Butler. They had to call it Lee Daniels' The Butler. But anyway, so I wouldn't be surprised if all of this, people are talking about Oprah as being a conceivable Oscar winner. That's saying that her performance is absolutely spectacular. So it wouldn't surprise me in the least if this is all just PR for the film. That they're trying. The more you're talking about Oprah and she's got a movie out now, the more likely maybe people are going to go to see this film. Because I don't understand why she would have. I mean, what was more reprehensible was her comments about Trayvon Martin and Emmett Till.
Yeah.
It's just awful.
I mean, to compare how anyone in their right mind, you want to say that you think George Zimmerman's a racist, you want to say that you think George Zimmerman shot him because he's black, that still doesn't make him Emmett Till, a 14-year-old boy at the time, I believe, who had the nerve to look at a white woman, and then the husband found out, and he and his racist brother went into the kid's home, took him out of bed, brutally murdered him, threw him in the river, weighted the body down. That's what happened to Trayvon Martin? Are you crazy?
Weighted the body down with barbed wire.
Yeah.
Concrete blocks around him wrapped with barbed wire, shot him through the eye.
And here's the shame of it, Nolan. I know you know this. Neither one of us are black, but it diminishes what Emmett Till means, what he stands for, what happened to him, how it could happen in America. To say that Trayvon Martin is for Oprah. I mean, Jesse Jackson, you could almost like shrug it off and say you expect it. But
Al Sharpton,
but Oprah.
Michael Eric Dyson, shrug.
What is her motivation? Was it to get people to go to her movie?
I think so.
Wow.
I do. I think that what you're trying to, unless she's really foolish, but I mean, Oprah's not foolish. I mean, what's peculiar about what we've seen with these two, let's call them gaffes, in the past week or so is we never see this from Oprah. She's a very, very smart businesswoman. She's a very, very smart entertainer. I mean, this woman seems to always step on the right dots, so to speak. This isn't what we've seen from her.
Right.
This is a very, very smart businesswoman. So I have to think this is calculated, and this is a way of getting. I mean, for example, remember. Oh God, who's the comedic actor who? Oh my goodness, I'm drawing a blank.
What did he do?
Well, this was the guy who decided he wasn't going to sponsor his own film. He wasn't going to push his own movie because it had so much gun violence.
That sounds familiar. I don't remember. Yeah, sounds familiar.
Anyway, what's interesting
Jim Carrey.
in the movie is called
Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey, and the movie is called Kick-Ass.
Right.
So what's happened is Kick-Ass they're expecting is going to do significantly better because of what Jim Carrey did.
Yep. No.
So maybe this is because movies aren't doing all that well. This has been a very bad summer.
No, very bad summer.
Although when you add up the total, it's all very. I mean, this is going to be a bigger summer than last summer. But the blockbusters have not done all that well.
No, they have
so
not.
maybe this is how you do PR now.
I guess, but if I tried it, I'd probably be thrown off the air. Not that I have a movie. Anyway, it was the control room who told me about that it was Jim Carrey, so I'm no genius. Anyway, okay, listen, I thank you, my friend. We'll speak to you next week.
Sounds good.
Take